Welcome. It's your man, God of Dots, man. We are back. Holiday edition. Merry Christmas to you and yours. And if I don't see you again before the New Year, Happy New Year's to you and yours. Hope everybody's having a very good week. Hope you had a very good weekend. A lot of football to talk about, and some other college football and some basketball. A little bit of housekeeping beforehand. May or may not be doing a show. Definitely won't be doing a show tomorrow. May or may not be doing a show on Thursday. So you know what? I'm not gonna do a show. Take a day off. Maybe doing a show on Friday though. Maybe coming back with a KBK show on Friday. But yeah, we here. I'll give shouts out to those who will make themselves known. How you doing, Miss Teresa? Nikki's in the building. Miss Murph in the clouds, but here. Appreciate it as always. Like I said, hope you guys are having a happy holiday season thus far. Listen, it would have been 9 o'clock. My brother was doing some last minute gift wrapping. You know, it is what it is. All right, so let's break down last week's games. And probably since we're not doing a show, definitely not doing a show tomorrow. Probably won't be doing a show on my Eagles lost, but at least we're going to the playoffs. We're gonna talk about your Eagles. We're gonna talk about your Eagles, Miss Murph, because woo. Okay, let's kind of get into some of the big news coming out of this past weekend as far as the NFL is concerned. We're going to start with the Thursday game. Broncos lose a close one to the Chargers. Both teams are still currently slated to make the playoffs. One more win and they're in, or a loss by Miami or Cincinnati secures the playoff berth for these two teams. Very, 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 very good game. Very entertaining game for what it was. Justin Herbert kind of got going. And listen, Justin Herbert is a very talented quarterback, and I don't think he gets enough recognition for how talented he is. He is, especially with the complement of players that he's had to play with this season. Outside of Ladd McConkey, who's had a very underrated but fantastic rookie year, wide receiver out of Georgia. He hasn't had too many weapons. Offensive line hasn't protected him as best as he can, but Justin Herbert has found a way to kind of get it done. The defense got it going in the second half. It took him a minute to kind of figure out what the Broncos were trying to do. But give credit to the Broncos also. Bo Nix, currently second place in the rookie of the year. Nothing to be ashamed about. He's had a fantastic season. I expect both of these teams to make it into the playoffs. If I had to pick which team I think is scary, and I would probably have to go Chargers just for the simple fact Justin Herbert, when he can get it going like he did in that second half against the Broncos, it's hard to stop him. And this is with even with the porous line play that he had even in the second half of that game, he was getting hit a lot, but Justin Herbert was on the money. Ladd McConkey, listen, a lot of put in. We'll talk about the draft a little bit later in the show, but a lot of stuff when we talk about measurables as far as guys coming out of college, especially at certain positions like wide receiver, cornerback, a lot of emphasis is put on how a guy 6'2", 6'3", runs a 4.3 and all. Listen, Ladd McConkey, and he follows that mold. I would call it the Julian Edelman role. That was very popularized by the scheme that the Patriots was running, where the slot receiver, route running, for the lack of better terms, is probably one of the most underrated skills of a wide receiver, and probably the most important skill, because I don't care how fast the guy can run, if you can't create separation, if you're not a good route runner, you're not going to be successful in this league. Too often we see wide receivers come in running 4.3, 4.2, 6'2", and there's so much hype around it. They ended up going in the first round. But you look at Ladd McConkey, he's had the best wide receiver seasons for all the rookies coming to this year. And a lot of people, if you didn't watch Georgia football or SEC football last year, you wouldn't know who Ladd McConkey is. But route running is a very underrated skill. As much as we like to talk about Tyreek Hill being as explosive a receiver as he is, listen, he's one of the best route runners in the league. You gotta have that skill set. But congratulations to the Chargers for picking up a much needed win. Like I said, Jesus, well, you too. How you doing, Miss Lady? Yeah. Now listen, let me stop this. This is gonna be kind of a all over the place kind of show. Listen, it felt good to pop out. It felt good to to speak to people who don't get a chance to hear me on a week-to-week basis like you guys do over here, who for lack of a better term, thought I was dead and gone, and I have been ran off, and I was it felt, I ain't gonna lie to you, it felt good. One of the better moments, I would say, in my experience on YouTube, one of the better moments, just to be able to kind of share the stage and get my, well, I ain't gonna get all my thoughts out because y'all know me, but to be able to express gratitude. I'm always humbled that people take the time to listen to little old me. Always humbled, but yeah, it was fun. I ain't gonna lie, dude. Often I don't go back and listen to commentary I've given, or panel appearances stuff. I don't really go back and listen to it, but I actually went back and listened to it, and not necessarily listen to what I'm saying, but just to feel the energy from the chat. But that was that was something. I didn't tell anybody I was going to do it. And those that know why. But anyway, let's get back into this breakdown. Cause I know Gator Girl somewhere, I can just hear in the back of my head. Get back to the goddamn sports. Let's break down this past Saturday's game. Texans lose a close one. Chiefs continue to win. Chiefs one win or one Buffalo loss away from securing home field advantage, and I think they're going to need it. Probably the best offensive performance in totality I've seen Kansas City play this year. I don't know if this is kind of them ramping up, but you beat the Texans. Texans are a team that just for lack of a better term, for me, I would say estimation of the season for the Texans has been a down year, considering where the expectations were. This team was expected to compete not only for the division, but this team was also expected to push for that upper echelon in the AFC, and it has just not materialized this year. CJ Stroud loses another weapon. Lost Stephon Diggs earlier this year. It's lost Tank Dell for the remainder of the year with an ACL injury. Good thing for the Texans. They play in a bad division. They'll get in. This looks like a team that's going to be one of them. I wouldn't pick the Texans out of all the teams that could possibly make the playoffs. Texas is probably, to me, looks like the most vulnerable to go out with a one and done. I'm just saying, but kudos to Kansas City, who week after week after week after week has found a way to win, despite what the critics may say about the performance, especially of the offense. I think the defense has played fantastic this year. We'll see if they're able to carry them to a third straight Super Bowl. And if listen, and I said this at the beginning of the season, if Kansas City is able to not only make it to the Super Bowl, but win another Super Bowl. What's going on, the fraud? Enjoy my second tribute. Yes, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. But I'm gonna be all over the place tonight, man. I'll be all over the place tonight. But yeah, I did enjoy the tribute. I did enjoy the tribute. But Kansas City, I said this at the beginning of the season, if they're able to get to the Super Bowl, win another Super Bowl. What's going on, brother, of a certain age? Listen, I'm gonna talk about that a little bit more because, like I said, I hear Gator Girl. She's the unofficial producer of this show. I can just hear in my head say, "Get back to the goddamn sports." But if Kansas City is able to get to the Super Bowl and win, you've got to put this team as this 3-year stretch to do something that no other team has done in NFL history, and especially in the Super Bowl era, to win 3 straight Super Bowls. You got to crown this Chiefs iteration, this team here, the greatest of all time. You got to, as much as you may talk about the 49ers, their run, the Patriots run, that stretch of dominance that they had, Cowboys with their success in the Super Bowl, Steelers also, Chiefs is to do something to three-peat in the Super Bowl era. I mean, it's hard enough to win one, let alone go back and win 2. But they're in the mix, currently sitting there with the best record in the AFC. Like I said, one more win, or a Buffalo loss secures home field. I think Kansas City takes care of business in the next game. They got a tough stretch here. A lot of games and a lot of days. They will get a lot of time off. We'll kind of look forward to the upcoming schedule because it is a couple games tomorrow for those who have Netflix. Make sure you take. Listen, I'm curious. This is probably, and I'm not even hyped about the game. It's going to be some good matchups for tomorrow, but I'm not even hyped up for the game. I'm more or less looking at the presentation for Netflix. They had a rough start with the Tyson Paul fight. I'm curious to see how they do streaming a live NFL football game, what features they have, and all of that kind of stuff. What's going on, Spottle? Yeah. But yeah, I'm curious to see what that looks like tomorrow. But let's get back into the breakdown of some of the big games that happened this past weekend and look forward to next week's schedule. Had Baltimore taking care of business against the Steelers team. Listen, no George Pickens. It kind of takes away a big chunk of the Steelers offense, and I'm gonna be hesitant in saying, the Steelers have kind of taken a step back, but they haven't looked good in the last two losses, getting kind of pushed around in Philadelphia and getting kind of manhandled, especially along that by the offensive line of Baltimore, who was able to run Derrick Henry with I think about $162 in that game. Pittsburgh, currently still hold the lead, even though both teams have identical records, but hold the tiebreaker due to their divisional record and conference record over the Ravens. I think the Ravens, I don't know how confident I feel about the Steelers heading to their matchup with the Chiefs, considering Pickens may or may not be back. He's been out for the past 3 games, but this offense does not look the same without having a big play wide receiver to complement what they got going on there in Pittsburgh. Like I said, Russell Wilson has played well. Hasn't turned the ball over too much. Had a big turnover in this game, but hasn't turned the ball over too much. I would expect, Pittsburgh, until George Pickens is fully back in the lineup and fully effective doing what he does as being the big deep ball threat, number one wide receiver. You would think Pittsburgh would lean more into the run game, but we'll see. We'll see. Have a big matchup. Pittsburgh is already into the playoffs, but you want to win a division for have that home field, had at least one home game as a division winner. You don't want to have to go on the road first thing in the playoffs and having to do it that way. But kudos to Baltimore, who's had their issues with Pittsburgh over the past couple of years and trying to figure out how to attack that defense. Did a very good job. Derrick Henry, they displayed. If you watch the game, they did something a little bit different than they did in the first matchup. It was a lot of movement as far as bringing the wide receivers over, tight ends over, a lot of guys moving around, and it was allowing that's holding that second. When you have movement like that, guys are running behind, wide receivers are running behind the line of scrimmage. It kind of freezes not necessarily that front line of a defense, but freezes that secondary level where linebackers are having to make calls and safeties are that stuff is kind of having to make adjustments. But Baltimore found a way to get the running game going. Lamar Jackson had another good game. MVP race is coming down to the end. We'll talk about Josh Allen, his performance. Excuse me. We'll talk about Josh Allen, his performance against the Patriots. I think the gap. If it was one, the gap has gotten a lot closer between these two. But Lamar Jackson, another good game. The stats are better than it was last year, and he won the MVP last year. Like I said, I think it's going to come down to win-loss record when we're talking about the MVP race. If Baltimore ends up with a better record than Buffalo, when you look at the stats, Lamar Jackson is right there above Josh Allen, but I think Josh Allen is going to get it due to having big signature wins. Only put one of the only 2 losses on Detroit, put the only loss that Kansas City has. So he's got that in his back pocket when we're talking about the media is voting on it. But Lamar Jackson is making it hard for voters. Like I said, I don't think it's going to get. I think it's be voter fatigue at this point. But Baltimore with an opportunity, if they win out, Steelers lose one of the next 2 games, they end up winning the division, get a home game. And Baltimore's, I think, is reasserting themselves as far as one of them tier 1 teams in the AFC when we're talking about uh, possible Super Bowl contenders or threats to the throne, as some people have called them. But Baltimore looked very good against a very good Steelers defense. Steelers, you lost your last two games against very good teams. You have potential to lose another game against another very good team in the Kansas City Chiefs. Steelers, we'll talk about that when we get to next this upcoming game. Other big news coming out since I saw a brother of a certain age slide all through here. I'm new to the New York Giants. Since you guys slid through here with that Giants stuff, Giants get smashed by the Atlanta Falcons. Michael Penix Jr. First start as a rookie, taking over for Kirk Cousins. That situation is. Listen, I might talk about that on the Friday show. How quarterback is the most overvalued position in all of sports. I don't care what sport it is. Quarterback is the most overvalued position. Just think about it. Kirk Cousins is about to make $60+ million just this year. And it's talking of Atlanta possibly cutting him before the March 23rd designation deadline this offseason. He's going to make $60+ million for 14 games of work. His career earnings is $321 million. Mind you, we're not talking about the contract, all of that's been guaranteed, but Jesus, his agent is the GOAT. His agent is the GOAT. But Michael Penix Jr. looked good. You did it against the Giants. Atlanta currently sitting there with identical records as Tampa Bay, but hold the tiebreaker due to winning the head-to-head matchup. Michael Penix looked good. Offense looked good, but you were playing the Giants. I wouldn't be too overhyped about it. Like I said, you weren't playing a team that was trying to really be competitive, and you were playing a team that had nothing to play for. I think you say Dak will be replaced. We'll talk about the boys in just a second. Because you're hearing a lot of noise coming out of Dallas, and for the life of me, I don't know why we've been eliminated from the playoffs. But as always, when you them boys, you dominate the headlines. You dominate the headlines. But like I said, Michael Penix, very good opening performance. Still tight race down there in the NFC South. If I had to pick, I would go Tampa Bay just for some fact. I think they're a better team, and I'm not sure. Michael Penix has got 2 games left in this regular season to kind of hold on to the division, but very good start against the Giants team that have kind of packed it in a long time ago. Speaking of team that has not packed it in, and I am thoroughly encouraged by their future. They're not going to be one of my dark horse teams anytime soon, but I'm talking about the Carolina Panthers winning a very high-scoring game against the Cardinals, who very much needed a win to stay in contention for the NFC West division title. Carolina has played with a lot of heart. Bryce Young has played remarkably better since being put back into the starting lineup. You look at the two teams, like I said, it was just a very good game, but you're looking at two teams who are talent deficient. But I look at Carolina. They could have packed it in a long time ago. Could have, especially Bryce Young, could have packed it in after being benched the second game of the season. But since he's got back, this team has looked better. The offensive line is blocking a lot better. Like I said, they got some pieces there in Carolina. You don't be that bad as me drafting that high, and those guys don't eventually kind of pan out. But you saw it was a good game. Just for the simple fact it was just good football, but two talent deficient teams, and the talent deficiency in the Cardinals is reared its ugly head. This team plays hard, plays smart, but just eventually got to have guys that can make plays. Arizona has not been able to do that consistently this season, and they've fallen behind after leading this division. Earlier this season, this has not been able to kind of maintain that pace. If they're able to get into the playoffs, still have an outside shot to get into the playoffs. If things kind of break their way, I think have they been eliminated? Let me look real quick. Okay, they may have been eliminated. Give me just a sec, y'all. I know my boy's been eliminated. I was not surprised by that news. Not surprised at all. Let me look at the standings. Let's look at conference. Have they been eliminated yet? Yep, they got eliminated. I'm sorry. So Arizona's out. So they've been eliminated. But very, very entertaining game for what it was. Speaking of entertaining games, we're talking about Detroit Lions get back on the winning path after losing, a very tough game against Buffalo the week prior. Take care of business against Chicago. Probably the biggest news coming out of this game. Offensive coordinator for Detroit, Ben Johnson, has been reportedly interested. Penix showed you something. Penix didn't show me jack. It was a glorified preseason game. Listen, you playing a team. Let's talk. Yeah, I don't want to pile on the Giants, but it's one of those situations you're facing a team that's talent deficient. Has nothing to play for. Who are obviously focused on the draft. The fan base is focused on the draft. You're not playing with, and you haven't played with any pride for the most part of the season. Penix coming in. It's not like he's taking over a team that does not have weapons. They lean very heavily on the run game to support him. So, he looked good in the first start, but it was more of a glorified preseason game. He wasn't playing a team that was fighting for anything at this point of the season. I'm curious to see what it looks like in his next two starts, but I don't put too much stock into it, brother. No, don't put too much stock into it. I'm trying not to pile on. It's the holiday season, but it's just the Giants. But back to the Detroit Lions. Big news: offensive coordinator Ben Johnson is said to be very interested in the possible head coaching position for the Chicago Bears. I think if I'm Chicago, I go all in on trying to bring in Ben Johnson. One, you got Caleb Williams, who's obviously got some talent, but this needs to be coached up some. But has a lot of arm talent, physically gifted quarterback. I think he's going to be very good in this league for years to come. And it's a lot to work with there. When you're talking about some of the personnel, you have DJ Moore in house after signing a contract extension with him. May or may not be bringing in Keenan Allen. I don't know, but you do have Roma Dunze, who has the makings of a number one receiver. So you have some things there you can build in Chicago. The defense is not horrible. I mean, this team started out the season 4-2. It's kind of falling off of a cliff. This is kind of the growing pains of having a rookie quarterback and the head coaching mess that they've had there in Chicago for a number of years. But Detroit keeps pace, still holds on to the number one position in the NFC as far as our home field advantage is concerned. A team that had an opportunity if they had been able to, and still have an opportunity if things kind of break their way, but I don't think it's going to break that way. Talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, who lose as much as I want to give credit for Jayden Daniels for having, the 5 touchdown performance that he did. Listen, Washington turned the ball over 5 times. In no shape, form, or fashion, no shape, form, or fashion should you lose a game, especially a team that is talented, as Philadelphia Eagles, lose to a team that you forced 5 turnovers with. No way it should be coming to that. I know people were talking about, Jalen Hurts got hurt. Jalen Hurts went out in the first quarter. This team was still able to, kind of make plays and put up some points with Kenny Pickett in there. But a team turns the ball over 5 times. You're supposed to put that team away. Philadelphia, Saquon had a decent game. I know Jalen Hurts being out, kind of changed some of the tone, but he went out in the first quarter. It wasn't like a late game injury when you needed him on a drive. Your defense, got taken advantage of. As much, let's think about it. They scored 30 plus points against Philadelphia, and it could have been more had they not turned the ball over as much as they were turning the ball over. I mean, you let a team put up 36 points and have 5 turnovers. Is bad. It's bad. It's nasty work for Philadelphia. I don't think I've seen Philadelphia play this bad defensively in a long time, especially during this winning streak that they had. Currently sit a full game back as far as NFC home field is concerned, but I think Philadelphia will be fine. I think Jalen Hurts will be back. I have no concerns about the Eagles. I mean, that was a bad defensive performance. To force 5 turnovers and to not put a team away says a lot about damn Jalen Hurts being hurt. Um, you're supposed to put a team away with 5 turnovers, but I think Jaden Daniels showed me something. Like definitely, he's locked up Rookie of the Year a long time ago, but just showed me something that he's willing to get out there and make plays, not only with his arm but with his feet. And he carried Washington across the finish line, especially in this one, a big win for them. Still with an outside shot to win the division. I don't think it's happening, but still with an outside shot to win the division. But kudos to them. Kudos to them. Another very good game that happened over this past weekend. You had the Vikings taking care of business, holding off the Seahawks. Listen, I picked Vikings in this one. Just for they played more consistent football on both sides of the ball all season long. And Seattle is Seattle. You never know what you're going to get. Even during the middle of a game, it looked like if you watch the game, Seattle looked like for stretches of that game, they look like the better team out there on the football field. But this is a team that is loves to shoot themselves in the foot and make mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. Losing a very, very close one. Currently sitting the game back of the Rams. I want to say they have a matchup coming up soon, but we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But Minnesota keeps pace and puts all the pressure. You look at the upcoming Detroit Minnesota game. You're talking about the division being on the line. Talking about home field possibly being still on the line in that matchup. Vikings defense. It might be at this point. Potentially could be game of the year. Could be game of the year. You're talking about the red hot Detroit offense, even with losing David Montgomery, has still continue to put up play after play after play. But Minnesota has a very good defense. It is going to be a chess match. Listen, probably definitely the best game in the NFC by far this year. Could be up for game of the year depending on how it kind of plays out. A lot riding on that game, but Minnesota keeps pace, keeps the pressure on Detroit. And if you had Minnesota being 13-2 at this point of the season, at the beginning, and you was like that at the beginning, I need to holler at you. I need some winning lottery numbers because I thought Minnesota would be decent, but I didn't think they would be 13-2. And this team is for real. It's not smoke and mirrors. Sam Darnold has played well enough to get himself a big contract. And people forget that Sam Darnold was a first round quarterback. I want to say number 3 quarterback drafted the year he was drafted. So it's not like the guy has no talent. It's not like he's coming off the street. Just you found a perfect match with that wide receiver tandem that you have out there, along with TJ Hockenson at the tight end. Minnesota has something. I'm looking forward to that game. Speaking of looking forward to a game, listen, I picked against the boys against Tampa Bay. Especially knowing that they would probably be eliminated before the game even started. Cowboys are out of the playoffs. Still could finish, with a winning record, being 9-8. I guess you can hang your hat on that. Probably the biggest news coming out of this: Buccaneers lose a very, very important game. Could possibly find themselves on the outside looking in. When the playoffs get around here, if they continue to lose like this. Cowboys, people saying that reports are that Jerry Jones is in talks for possibly bringing back Mike McCarthy. Oh God. I saw Nikki earlier talking about Dak could be out of there. Cooper Rush has played well. I think I wouldn't say Dak couldn't put up the same production. But it seems like when Cooper Rush is in there, and maybe it's just me. When Cooper Rush is in there, it seems like Dallas' game plan is a whole lot different when Cooper Rush is the quarterback. I don't know if it's because of Cooper Rush being there, being more familiar with some of the second and third string players. I don't know, but it seems like the play calling is a lot better. It's a lot different. When he's been the quarterback there, especially in the Mike McCarthy area. This team seems like offensively they're more balanced when Cooper Rush is there. He's putting up the ball, allowed to throw the ball. CeeDee Lamb is not getting 15, 20 targets, but Cooper Rush is spreading the ball around, getting guys involved, and the run game has been better since Cooper Rush is taking a lot. Like I said, I think it has more to do with the play calling. Than anything. It just looks like when you watch them offensively with Cooper Rush back there, it looks like a completely different team. It looks like a team that is trying to establish balance in the offense. and that's something they might want to address in the offseason. Because if you can't tell me Mike McCarthy's not calling a different game with Cooper Rush than he is with Dak. If you're watching, you can see it. You can see it. I don't know. Speaking of, I don't know, Tampa Bay, bad loss. I picked you guys to win. This what I thought offensively, if you're going to take care of business. He had some unlucky breaks as far as turnovers are concerned. Tampa Bay, you have no more matchups with the Falcons, so you got to hope that they kind of trip up and give you guys another shot, because you could be on the outside looking in regards to the playoffs. But we'll see. We'll see. Speaking of, playoffs, Dolphins are out, but take care of business against the 49ers teams whose season's been kind of over. And probably the biggest news coming out of that game, a lot of the commentary has been Jerry goes to who's winning. Really, listen, McCarthy he's one of Jerry's guys. Like, listen, I have had to suffer through, guys hanging on there because they're Jerry's guys. I've lived through the Jason Garrett era. I'm living through the Mike McCarthy. Listen, he likes guys that are his guys. But it's definitely a play. To me, it looks like a play caller thing. I don't think it's a talent thing. I don't think anybody believes Cooper Rush is a better quarterback than Dak, but the play calling is just different when he's back there. CD still gets his touches, but you haven't heard a peep about CD being unhappy about the number of targets or nothing like that. I don't know. I don't know. But speaking of I don't know, 49ers, you have a very big decision to make this offseason. Do you pay Brock Purdy that big time quarterback, the 50+ million club? Does he join that club, or does he get a contract similar to what Daniel Jones got back when it was time for his big extension? Do you get a contract similar to that, more of the 40 to 45 million? I don't know. If I'm San Francisco, considering when I look at the talent that I have around him, and those guys are getting older. Those guys are getting older, and am I going to be able to fill out a roster to support him? Because Brock Purdy is a good quarterback, but he needs guys around him to support him. And you've seen kind of what it looks like this year when he hasn't had those guys in the lineup for extended stretches of the year. He's not a guy that elevates the guys around him. He's just not that. But San Francisco has that decision to make. Me personally, 40 to 45 million, give him the Daniel Jones package. And kind of go from there. I think you'd be making a mistake to put him in the $50 million club. I like him, but he ain't that. He's not a guy that elevates guys around him. Speaking of a guy that elevates and has recently joined that $50+ million club, talking about Jordan Love, who shut out in New Orleans. Listen, I said this last year. You can go back and catch the tape. I said this last year, and I'm gonna say it again this year. Green Bay is a team that I do not want to face if I'm a team in the playoffs. Green Bay is not a team I want to face come playoff time. This defense is getting better. Jordan Love has cleaned up the turnovers. Josh Jacobs is elevating his play over the last month or so. Green Bay is a team. I'm talking to the Minnesotas. I'm talking to the Phillies. Talking to the Detroit. Green Bay is not a team you want to take lightly and overlook. If you put a gun to my head right now and ask me to pick a Packers Eagles, I might go Packers. I would probably go Packers. I would probably pick the Packers over Minnesota. Detroit, I was slightly ride with Detroit, but Green Bay is capable of listen. Green Bay is peaking at the right time. You heard it here first. Don't be surprised if Green Bay makes a deep run into this year's playoffs. They have the talent. The defense is coming together. Be wary of Green Bay. You heard it here first. I'm just saying. You heard it here first. And I was right about it last year because they went in there and smoked my Cowboys, in Jerry's world. Well, pretty much it's everybody's world except ours. Looking forward, like I said, holiday season. Will not be doing a show definitely tomorrow. Too much basketball, football going on. for me to be, trying to set up a show. So I'm gonna kind of get my preview for the upcoming week out the way. May or may not be doing a show on Friday. We'll see. Um, but it's a lot of NBA Christmas games. It's this around the time I start really kind of paying attention. Um, as far as the NBA is concerned, because we were reaching the point where we're almost at the All-Star break, where you kind of now we on it. But back to the NFL, upcoming like 2 games tomorrow. We got Chiefs on the road against the Steelers. Short week for both teams. You're talking about 3 games in the past 11 days for both teams. So both teams coming in fatigued. George Pickens, big news for the Steelers. George Pickens is, scheduled to be back after missing the last 3 games. Kansas City, in a position to where you would think with a 14-1 record they would be able to kind of coast, maybe rest guys. I don't think they're in a position for that because still an outside chance. If they lose the last 2 Buffalo wins and they end up with identical records, Buffalo with the head-to-head tiebreaker gets home field, and I think Kansas City wants home field more than anything, if nothing else, to get a week off when the playoffs start. Chiefs, I got Chiefs in this one. I just think Steelers, are a good team. I just don't think they're going to be able to give Kansas City too much problems on the defensive side of the ball. I expect with Patrick Mahomes still kind of battling through the ankle injury. I expect Pittsburgh to be very blitz happy tomorrow to kind of get after Patrick Mahomes, put a lot of pressure on him, and pretty much make it a game where this offense has to beat them. But I got Kansas City in this one. I just feel more confident about Kansas City coming to this game, especially on a short week. You guys just, like I said, they just played this past Saturday. They're playing again tomorrow. Like I said, they get 11 days off after that. Steelers at home have a lot to play for. But so does the Kansas City Chiefs. If the Chiefs had secured home field by now, I think you might see guys resting, but they're not in that position just yet. So I got Chiefs in this one. The other Christmas Day game, like I said, both games are on Netflix. For those who don't have it, do not hit me up. I am not sharing my password, but I will be enjoying those games. Yeah, Baltimore going against the Texans, for lack of better terms, have kind of locked up the division. They're not scaring anybody. You already have the solidified home game. You don't have a shot at home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So and you have Baltimore, who has a lot to play for, who could possibly leap back in front of Pittsburgh. If Pittsburgh loses and they win, they'll hold a 1-game lead. Going down the final stretch of the season, I think Baltimore is going to come in here with a lot to play for. You want to kind of keep the momentum going as far as this offense is concerned, and Baltimore is wanted to get fine-tuned for the playoffs. Both teams, they're in the playoffs. Both teams are in the playoffs, but I think Baltimore's going to come in with a little bit more to prove, a little bit more to play for. Houston, I guess you're playing for pride, playing on Christmas. But no Tank Dell, no Stephon Diggs. Nico Collins has been banged up. Offensively, CJ Stroud has not had the best sophomore year. Has not had the sophomore year that a lot of people thought he would have coming into this year. Excuse me. And Baltimore is one of those teams that gets after the quarterback. So for that, with the way that Baltimore looked in their last game, the Texans looked in their last game, I'm short week. I usually go for the home teams, but in this situation, I'm going both road teams for the Christmas games. I just think those 2 teams are better. I think Baltimore is better than the Texans, and I'm riding with that. Speaking of a Thursday night game that has a lot at stake for one team, you have the Seahawks going on the road to play Chicago. Seahawks need a win. Chicago, I like Chicago. In the future, I like some of the pieces they have, but I pick the Seahawks in this one. I think we get good Geno in this game. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde need a win to not only stay in the playoff race out in the NFC, but also stay with an outside shot to possibly get back into the divisional race. Need a win, take care of business. Short week. I like, typically, y'all know, in a short week, I go with the home teams, but I'm going all road teams on this one. I got Seahawks taking care of business against Chicago. I got them taking care of business against Chicago. Looking forward to this upcoming weekend's games. Saturday, you got 3 games on tap. You got Chargers and Patriots. I got Chargers in this one, even though Patriot news. I have been watching Drake. Drake May has had a very good year as a rookie. Very underrated because the team has lost a lot of games. It's just another team that's talent deficient. But I like what I've seen from Drake May. They just got to get some guys in there, get some playmakers in there. Probably the most intriguing matchup of the Saturday's games. You got Broncos on the road against Cincinnati. Cincinnati, who has been eliminated, excuse me, could be eliminated with a win by certain teams throughout this weekend. But Cincinnati's offense has played fantastic all year, despite how bad this defense has played. But I'm going Broncos in this one because I think Bo Nix, with this bad as that Bengals defense is, Bo Nix is going to be able to be effective, put up some big numbers. They're going to be able to score against Cincinnati, and I think the Broncos defense will get a turnover or two against Cincinnati and be able to to hold them. And when we're talking about holding Cincinnati, 20, 25 is 25 and under, maybe to that. But I think Cincinnati, your defense is going to bite you in the ass once again. I don't care how great Joe Burrow has played this year. Listen, if this team had a winning record, Joe Burrow would firmly be at the top of a lot of people's MVP list with the season that he's had. But I got Broncos in this one. Closing out the Saturday's games. You got Rams at home against the Cardinals. I got Rams in this one. This has been my dark horse team. If you follow the show, there's been a team I've been on, kind of keeping my eye on, my dark horse team. The Rams is going to be another team. Listen, NFC is going to be I think the NFC more than any other, than the AFC is going to be very dependent on who matches up with who. When we're talking about the playoff matches, when you look at the AFC, I think you have the clear cut favorites. You have Buffalo, you have Kansas City, you have Baltimore as being those teams who will be favored in just about any first round matchup that they may have. When you look at the NFC, depending on how that kind of breaks, the Rams could be picked as a favorite. Let's say over the NFC South winner if they had to go there. The Rams could be picked, depending on how things kind of break. You could be looking. Listen, it's going to be highly competitive. Rams, Packers, and depending on who that third wild card team could be. I mean, that it could be upset city. I'm just saying I think the NFC is going to be a lot more unpredictable than a lot of people may think. Philadelphia, Detroit, Minnesota have looked good, but the Packers are a team you don't want to catch coming in catch lacking. The Rams have shown that hey, they can compete with the big boys after beating Buffalo a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. But anyway, closing out the preview for the upcoming games. Let's see. I'm only going to really focus on the most important games. I want to get to some other commentary. Well, since I saw brother of a certain age, I have to show acknowledgement to the Giants who are at home against the Colts. Colts are a very, very interesting team. Anthony Richardson has not progressed as a quarterback, but they do have a run game. I expect them to beat the Giants. I'm just kind of giving them a little shine. Got the Jets on the road against the Bills. I got Bills taking care of business there. The race for the number one pick, Titans and Jags. I got Titans. Buccaneers, Panthers. Buccaneers need a win, but the Panthers have played very well, despite some of the losses, especially since Bryce Young got back. But I got Tampa Bay in this one. Philly and Dallas, depending on let's see when are they that's the 1 o'clock kickoff. When does the Lions play? Oh, they clever. Philadelphia obviously with a lot of play for, still with an outside shot to win. Need a win to stay in the hunt for the number one seed in the NFC. Will Jalen Hurts play? I don't know. Cowboys have, I guess, played well. I'm going Philly in this one, just for the simple fact, you know, Saquon Barkley and the Cowboys have been susceptible to the run game. I'm going Eagles in that one. I told you guys I wasn't picking the Cowboys no more this year. This won't fool, you're not fooling me. But I got Eagles in that one. I think Eagles take care of business. So I'm understanding how important it is to remain right there with the opportunity. Because you got the opportunity to be right back there in that conversation for number one seed in the NFC. When you consider the other games that are on tap later on that afternoon, later on that Sunday afternoon, the Packers team I was talking about, they're on the road against Minnesota. Minnesota needs a win to stay right there with Detroit. Needs a win to keep in the hunt not only for the division but for number one. But you got the Packers sitting right there, like this is a tough team. This is a tough thing. I'm going Packers in that one. I just like the way that the Packers defense is kind of turned it on late. I think they're going to be able to kind of cause Sam Darnold some issues, but Minnesota's got let's see if it might be my game of the week. It might be my when you look at the stakes in this one, might be my game of the week. Packers, almost beat Detroit. It's a game of the week for me, but I got Packers in this one. I got Packers with the upset. I just think, as well as Minnesota has kind of played, they look kind of sketchy at times, but nobody's talking about what Green Bay is doing out there. I mean, this team is peaking at the right time. And listen, maybe it's me having PTSD from last year. This team scares me. I'm late. Hey, Gator, the unofficial executive producer of the show. Nothing but sports so far. I've gone over because we will not be doing the show tomorrow, most definitely, because I'm sitting back watching sports all goddamn day long. We'll not be doing the show on Thursday, maybe doing a show on Friday. But yeah, finishing out this week's upcoming games, you got Michael Penix making his second start on the road against Jaden Daniels, matchup of two rookie quarterbacks. Atlanta with a lot to play for. But the Commanders also with a lot to play for, want to be peaking at the right time as we get closer and closer to the playoffs. I'm going Commanders in this one. I'm, like I said, nothing against Michael Penix Jr., but you had a glorified preseason game playing against the Giants. Let's kind of pump our brakes. People are thinking you the second coming of Matt Ryan down in Atlanta, but let's pump our brakes. I got Jaden Daniels continue to trend. I think the defense is going to play a lot better than they have. And I got Washington at home, take care of business. Jaden Daniels outplays Michael Penix. Nothing against Michael Penix, but you just play the Giants, bro. Pump your brakes. Speaking of pumping the brakes, Monday night game. You got Detroit on the road against San Francisco. And the tales of the season. If this is one of those games you had circled on your calendar at the beginning of the year, thinking this was going to be possibly for top dog in the NFC. In essence, this kind of is, but there's only one team playing for that position and not two. I expect Detroit to go into San Francisco, take care of business, and continue to put the pressure on Minnesota and Philadelphia to keep pace with them. I think Detroit more or less, wants to get through these last couple of weeks, if nothing else, healthy. They've lost a lot of guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball. You want to make it through to the end of the season healthy, but hopefully you can get home field and kind of keep it moving like that. Now, it is a story before we kind of close out tonight's show. It is a story from the world of college football, and we've talked about NIL stuff on this show repeatedly on plenty of KBK shows on this channel. It's two stories, but they kind of intertwine. But we talk about how much money has changed the way business is done on a college football level. But it was a story that came out last week. Alabama AD has implored and reached out to the fan base. In public statements that was made, reached out to the fan base and basically told them maybe it's time for you, the average fan, to reach down into your wallet or reach down into your purse and contribute to some of these NIL super PACs. And that's how pretty much how they're, the players kind of get their money through these quote unquote super PACs that are basically just, covers for, the boosters to be all up under one title, like all in for Alabama PAC. It's like how they do politicians. Politicians, you have your donors and they all kind of gather up under that. But Alabama AD is pretty much implored the Alabama fan base to reach down into your wallet and reach down into your purse to help contribute to some of the NIL money that will be available for players. Simple, because players are transferring out of Alabama due to better NIL deals in certain locations. Listen, I knew it was only a matter of time for that was going to be the next call when you look at NIL. And it's still in the process of being worked through, and people are finding ways to take advantage of it. To exploit, it's like, listen, it's like no salary cap on NIL. It's not like your school got $30 million of NIL money, and you got to decide how to divide it up amongst players. I think that might be the next. If I'm NCAA, that might be the next logical step to put a cap on the NIL money. But you're not putting a cap on it. Teams are able, or let's call it what it is. They're able to offer contracts to players to come play for their school. We talked about Quinn Ewers, Texas quarterback, who's as of right now not looking to enter the draft, has been offered by several schools to come play one more year for them for $4 million. You saw how Cam Ward was able to transfer. NIL was heavily involved in that. Him coming to Miami. And it's improved his stock to where he might be, depending on who's picking first, might be the number one player drafted in the draft. So it's a business decision made by players, but for the Alabama AD pretty much reach out to the fan base and say, hey, we need you guys to not just the big money boosters, but the everyday, mom and pops. Hey, we need you to donate to these NIL PACs so we can be able to compete to not only bring in players but to keep players here. With how NIL is kind of worked out. Listen, yeah, I'm with you. Not any shit. I'm all about the players getting their money, but I'm not that heavily invested to where I want to be contributing to buying some 18-year-old to come play at the school. If you can't do what you do, I don't know what to tell you. It's just not like, listen, Boise State is playing in the college football playoffs. They ain't got a lot of money. It's NIL. I'm just saying, SMU made the playoffs. Indiana made the playoffs. NIL, listen, it's there, but listen, those programs are not big money schools, so it can be done. I'm just saying, reaching out to the everyday person to contribute. Nah, I'm good. Excuse me, but but it's another story that came out. Kind of broke earlier today. Dealing with the University of Colorado in regards to Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, who are scheduled to play in the Alamo Bowl, their final game as Colorado players. Colorado took out an insurance policy, and I think this might be something that you kind of keep your eye on because took out an insurance policy to cover them in the event that they got injured in their final game as Colorado Buffaloes for this upcoming bowl game, to kind of protect them going forward if they get hurt, gives them some insurance money to kind of cover possible lost wages and stuff like that. Just listen, I'm surprised other teams and other programs have never taken this kind of approach before, but maybe that's because the NIL stuff is still kind of new and they're working through it. What it does is incentivizes players who typically at this point of the year, if you're not playing for the national championship, you're not in the college football playoff, and you're one of those guys to get drafted. Typically what we have seen is guys say, hey, I'm skipping the bowl game, I'm getting ready to prepare for the draft. That's where my mind and my focus is at. that has been kind of like the model, especially over the last decade with some of the high profile players, understanding that, hey, I don't want to risk getting hurt in the bowl game that, really is not going to affect my draft stock one way or the other. I don't want to play, but with Colorado taking this approach, saying, hey, we're taking out these, and no numbers have been released, but it's expected to be two of the most lucrative insurance policies taken out on players on the college football level in a long time, possibly ever. It could incentivize those guys. Could incentivize those guys when I'm talking about players who obviously have aspirations to go on to the NFL, but don't want to ruin. Like you don't want to be nothing against the Willis McGahees, the Frank Gores, guys who played. When their draft stock was at its highest, played, got hurt, and not to say that they didn't go on to have fantastic careers, but you possibly hurt your earning potential. I'm just saying. Speaking, and one more thing before what's his name? Carson Beck, quarterback for Georgia, is out for the remainder of the season. So, for those who like college football and betting on the games, Georgia was one of the favorites. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, like I said, tomorrow, nothing but sports for me. It's a lot of Christmas Day games. As far as the NFL is concerned, that'll be on Netflix. A lot of NBA games. I want to say it's like 7 games on the schedule for tomorrow. So it's a lot of stuff you get into. Hope you have a good time with the family, the friends. And enjoy your holiday season. And if I don't see you again, it's all peace and love over here. It's all peace and love, and I hope you guys stay safe. If you missed, I think Gator Girl missed it. I did do a little pop out last night. But get out and touch grass and get out and enjoy what life has to offer and enjoy all of that, man. I'm serious. As we get older, and I think everybody that pretty much listens to me is over 30. I'm pretty sure. As we get older, it's very important, man, to enjoy the small things in life. If you end up reading books, man, dive into that. What I missed, listen. I did a little pop out over in the other space. I did like a 5-minute appearance, Gator Girl. I did a 5-minute guest appearance on a panel. Nothing to write home about from my end, anyway, as far as that is concerned. But get out, man, and enjoy life, man, and enjoy what life has to offer, man. We getting older. Oh shit, I don't care. I know you don't. I just, I know you don't. But yeah, just get out, man, and enjoy yourself. Especially if you sports fans. Listen, big day tomorrow for us, man. Listen, the Netflix games, NBA games. I'm gonna be kind of in and out. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's a lot of basketball tomorrow. But the Netflix games, I'm curious to see how they kind of package those games and what that looks like. Because listen, that may be the future of the NFL. That may be the future of the NFL. Amazon is kind of got the Thursday games on lock. Netflix is dipping their toe in this one. You also get a free concert during the Texans games for those Beyonce fans out there. You get that halftime show. But yeah, it's a lot of good stuff happening this time of year as we wind down the NFL season. Playoffs are just around the corner. NBA is starting to heat up. And all that good stuff. But anyway, just know that what they hate in you ain't in them. I like that. I like that because obviously that touched the nerve for some people. But anyway, ends you off with the phrase Prime game is solid. I can't listen. I like listen in there between Prime. I want to say NBC. Is trying to do something with EA Sports to include the MetLife. So they're trying to do everything to enhance, the game. And I would say this about the NFL, more so than any other sports. They try to be, try to change it and make it so fan immersive, with their presentation, than probably any other any other league out there. They do a very good job with the presentation. And they really focus on that. So I'm curious to see what the Netflix games were like. Hopefully they don't have no goddamn streaming issues. Because listen, it was tough getting through that Paul Tyson can't even call it a fight, the sparring session. It was tough. It was tough getting through that. I don't think Netflix was ready for all them damn people to show up. You better be ready for it tomorrow. Especially we got the games that you got. But anyway, end you off with the phrase that pays over here. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But every time you learn, Merry Christmas to y'all. And I'm out. You